Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's Bebop here. Today's video is going to be about what I believe is one of the best setups that you can go with if you are a new player entering the raid and you want something that does really good damage across the board and it has range capabilities. That way you can decide whether you want to be ranged or melee, but you can do damage in both really well. So this setup, let's get into it. It's going to be the greatsword and bow combo. Now, on this character, I do have Serenity, but I want to set this up as if you're on Fresh Start. Maybe you don't have Serenity yet. What can you look for as far as a greatsword? What perks do you want on it? This is the Night Vale Greatsword of the Rangers. So this was from the Halloween event. You can find these in the store. Trenchant Strikes must on the greatsword, 23% every time you do a heavy melee, which that's only what you do with the greatsword. Flame Attunement is going to be great against Angry Earth, so you could put flame harnessing, fire harnessing on your clothes if you wanted to. Keen Speed, yeah, it's just there. It's a throwaway perk, but it's cool. You know, whatever. Keenly Jagged would be basically BIS for this setup. Now, on the bow, I have Vicious, Frost Attunement, and Lasting Rain of Arrows. That way I can go ahead and quickly hit the bosses or enemies quickly with the Rain of Arrows, have the bleed going, lasting a long time. And then I'll show you on my clothes. I have perks that complement that also. Let's get back to my main set here that we're going to run the main part of the dungeon before we get to the bosses. We're going to start off with the amulet. Now, this is slash protection, empowered, and health. If you look here, I am evenly on strike and slash with a little bit of thrust. Now, the spiders you're not going to be able to do nothing with. They're beast. The little rats are beast also, so they're just going to hit way hard. So you might want to stay back a little bit ranged on those. Now, with the current setup that I have, with the attributes I have running through the main part of the dungeon, you will get knocked at some point. No big deal. You just die out, respawn. You're not penalized or anything like that. No big deal. Who cares? But you want to be able to do damage on the boss. So that's what we're concerned with. So slash protection, empowered, and health through the main part of the dungeon, and on the second boss I'll use this set. Leeching, thrust damage, and hardy, and refreshing toast, nimble, and healing heart. You can go with empowering toast or whatever if you want, but I have the thrust ring on here because I like to stay on the bow through some of the main part of the dungeons, unless I'm with a group that, hey, we're all going to be in melee and kill stuff quick. In public lobbies, you just don't know what the heck's going to happen, and it's not like we're racing in the main part of the dungeon anyways. And I had to go about 3 years with a bow glitch on my main account, so I like to sit back a little bit with the bow and use that. I had to get rid of that ugly helmet. All right, so on the earring, I have refreshing toast, nimble, and healing heart. It's really just to get the extra attribute points, but you could, like I said, go with empowering toast or whatever you desire. Heart rune, I'm going to use rending vines. That way we can go ahead and root the enemies and try to kill them faster, especially the spiders, because they dash and they hit really hard, which I'm sure you're aware of. Now I have perks here to complement my weapons. I have slowing rupture. Slow enemies struck with roaring rupture by 25% for 5 seconds. So any teammate with the dot right here in strength, 10% damage on stunned, slowed, or rooted enemies. That's going to help do a lot more group damage. Okay, you're going to help everybody out. On the chest, it's a chain of ward, refreshing, and health. On the gloves, this is going to complement the bow. Enfeebling poison shot applies weaken, reducing target's armor by 17% for 6 seconds. We have attuned leather pants, 725, relentless freedom on there. That way it complements the greatsword. It increases relentless rushes critical hit chance by 14%. So if you get shot by the spiders with their venom or their web, you're slowed. Yeah, that's what it is, web. You're slowed. You can get rid of that with relentless rush. And then here on the feet, we have penetrating rapid shot, 21% armor penetration of all rapid shot attacks. Now that is big time. You know, the first boss, if you're going to be up on the pillars, having that perk right there will help get you some better damage. You're going to be in a weakened state until he's stamina broke and knocked. So if you're going to choose to be ranged on that fight, then that will help you out getting some more damage at least. But you want to be melee on the first boss fight. So that's going to bring us to getting to the first boss fight. What do we want to do? We want to switch here. We want to add some strike gems. Okay. Now I'm going to be about 45% strike resistance, and that is what's key. Okay, he does a lot of strike damage. You got to be careful on the spikes because they explode. I'm not sure exactly what that damage is, but if you're low con like I am, you will get one shot. So real quickly, attributes in the first class going through the main part of the dungeon is going to be, you really want to get to 350 dex, 25 int. I have 3 in con because it's going to help my last set out. You'll see that in a minute. And then the rest in strength. So if we go to the first boss set here, we go to attributes, same across the board. And we have the strike damage resistance of 45%. It's going to help us stay alive. And I carried over some of the perks here from that will help with the bow. So if I'm out killing the, let's say, spikes with the greatsword does excellent damage to the spikes. And then I'm wanting to get back to the boss, I can easily just pop, rain of arrows. I can pop the poison shot, and then I can pop the rapid shot real quick as I'm going back. And that way I can do some damage on the way back, get some bleeds and all that stuff, which will help charge the heart rune faster, which will allow you to apply the rend. Now, on the first boss, you could also use the cannon blast. I don't have it here on me, but it will do a lot of stamina damage. So if your group has enough rend, then go cannon blast. Now, in a lot of public lobbies, you won't have enough rend. So using the brutal heart or the rending vines is going to be great. Brutal heart rune of grasping vines. Now you can go just to 625. You don't have to go to 700. The rend's going to be the same. And the only thing that makes a difference is the base damage, but that's not really that important. Your rend is what is important, okay? It reduces the target's armor by 20%. Now, when we go to the second boss, I will go back to the main set here because I do have the slash protection amulet. We are even on the slash and strike pretty much. A little bit of a difference, 5%, but 27% with slash, 22% strike. So this will get you through the second boss just fine. Stay low con on the bosses. You shouldn't be above 50 con on the bosses. You're there as DPS, you're there to do damage. All right, if you can't stay alive, eventually you'll learn how to, but you got to be at that low con to do damage. We're not here to freaking not do damage. You got to be low con and you got to be in light, and we're here to get through this. The problem with a lot of public groups is they're all range. Range got nerfed pretty big time when Eternum came out. You're not going to do that much damage. All right, so now we get to the last boss set here. Now, my attributes are as such. 50 con, that's going to help me give me the extra 5% physical armor. 25 int for the damage increase to backstabs and random critical hits. As you know, the last boss does not have a back. The first boss doesn't have a back until he's stamina broke, and then you can get to his back. Anything you can do to increase your critical hit chance, and that's why 350 dex here. 15% critical chance while empowered. Every time you dodge, pretty much with the greatsword or whatnot, you'll be empowered. You'll be empowered a lot with the greatsword. Now, if you have Serenity, you're constantly empowered, so it's even better. And then every time you dodge with the bow, the way it should be set up, you will be empowered. So that way you get the extra crit chance for the flowers and vines and all that good stuff. Now for this setup, I have some, basically I just wanted to have the Enchanted Ward refreshing, the omnidirectional vase for when I rapier and musket. And so the empowered shooter stance would go with that. I'm just keeping the same gear. Now I did bring over the gloves for the enfeebling poison shot, and then the shoes for the penetrating rapid shot. Now here I do have the divine health amulet. Now it is constitution. That last fought is a lot about attrition, so staying alive is pretty key. It's a little bit more important than overall damage for public lobbies. Now if you're with a group that's good to go, that's different, but I'm coming at this from a mindset of randoms meeting up in public lobbies. So staying alive is really the key to that fight. I have thrust damage ring, so that way you can do damage with your bow, because the bow is going to need a lot more help than the greatsword will. The greatsword will be great against the eggs and the boss, but the bow will be needed to be boosted some, so that thrust damage will help out. And then the earring I went with was healthy toast, refreshing, and nimble. All right, really the important part is healthy toast and nimble. Now, if you can change that out with healing heart rune or whatever other third perk you want, that'd be better. I'm just going to keep that in there for now until I decide to change it. But yeah, that's what I go with. That way I can take mana pots and get 15% of my base health. Oh, and also I am 47.5% nature damage resistance. If you find that's not enough, keep nature gems on you and just throw the nature gems in the 2 pieces that don't have them. So this is my attributes. Let's go to the weapon setup for the bow. I have it set like this. I got rapid shot, and I have it to where the last shot, if all 3 arrows hit, cools it down by 50%. The third arrow, rapid shot, deals 25% more base damage. Deal 15% more base damage to any foe as long as you have not damaged them in the last 10 seconds. So anytime those flowers spawn, boom, you're doing 15% more damage. Increase critical chance by, of all bow shots, so by 10%. And deal 15% more base damage to targets below 50% health. Deal 10% more base damage to foes at least 10 meters away. Rain of arrows, shoot a barrage of arrows. They'll do 150% weapon damage. Rain of arrows cause a bleed. That does 9% weapon damage for 12 seconds. Headshots inflict rend, reducing target's armor 10% for 5 seconds. Hitting a foe below 50% health reduces all bow abilities. That's really good. You want your bow abilities cool down as best you can. Gain 10% haste when you swap to your bow. It's not necessarily important. You can choose not to have this dot. You can go with a 15% slow if you want, or maybe you get more stamina if you hit a enemy with a debuff. Really, damage perks would be better, and not sure what else you would want to pick, so I just go with that. And that way, in case when I shrine, then I just switch to the bow. I'll get the haste there, and I'll get the haste from dodging. I can catch up back to the group and act like nothing ever happened. Duration of debuffs lasts 20% longer. 10% more base damage to foes suffering from a debuff. And we have enfeebling, or the poison shot. It's going to do nature damage. So if you have nature harnessing, that will also increase your nature damage output. Poison shot now does 24% weapon damage for 7 seconds, and if you directly hit, it's going to do 100% more weapon damage. Now the ultimate, gain empower and deal 15% more damage for 5 seconds after dodging. Huge. All right, huge. You don't want to go this side. You're not going to be doing headshots. All right, that's what you want to go with. And then on the greatsword, I have this set up for players getting into the greatsword, and this will allow you protection. Now, if your group doesn't have enough rend, you get rid of calamity and you'll go skyward. Now, if you do that to apply rend, you basically want to get in the onslaught position first. So do a heavy attack or relentless rush first, then do the skyward, and that will stack 3 rends instead of just 2. In onslaught stance, apply 1 additional rend, so that would be 3. That'd be 15% rend for 10 seconds. That's a big rend buff. The roaring rupture, you're going to gain fortify. You do a 4-meter radius blast that does 120% strike weapon damage. Cleanses 2 debuffs after using roaring rupture. Shockwave applies weaken. And calamity is going to help you basically block attacks. Let's say the tail whip on the first boss, or all the tail whips of the last boss, or the second boss spinning around and hitting you, or the wolves jumping at you, or the birds flying at you. It's so good for people that are maybe not comfortable with being in melee to use. Like, I can't recommend it enough. I'll show you how to use it. Base damage increase 3% for each greatsword buff on you, and then you're going to do bleed here also with each heavy attack. Charge heavy attack now at 15% armor penetration. Gain haste after being in onslaught stance. Your next attack within 5 seconds has 100% increased critical chance. Become energized after landing a critical hit and regen 5 stamina, 5 base health. Critical hit chance increased by 10% when attacking foes with a debuff. Increase base damage 15% when attacking foes that are above 90% health. Enter onslaught stance with doing a charge heavy. You have the relentless rush. Gain empower after hitting a target with relentless rush, and after dodging, gain 10% empower for next 3 seconds within for the next 3 hits within 10 seconds. And then hitting foes with the greatsword reduces cooldowns. So refreshing move, basically. All right, now let's get into the video and I'll show you how we want to use calamity. All right, here we are at the first boss. As you can see, we're doing good stamina damage with the greatsword, and calamity right now with the tail whip. Don't hurt me, and it doesn't make me move. Now we go relentless rush to get into onslaught stance. And we're doing a little bit of damage here on the back while he's down, and that's going to be your best time to do damage. Now he will get up and slam, and you always want to stay on his legs, okay? And use on the side where Oblivion is. That way when he does the rocks, you have that little gap and you'll be safe. Here we are on the spikes. You can see the greatsword does excellent damage. Now when they're lit up purple like that, you got about 10 to 12 seconds before they explode. So usually I'll take 1 or 2 out, and then I'm going to go ranged with the bow, and then I will also hit the boss with some dots. And next thing you know, we're back on the greatsword. And since you have grit, even if he slams, you'll lose health, but you'll get it back with the beacon and the sacred ground being around somewhere. And also, you will not be knocked around, so you won't lose much DPS time. Now you can see the damage with the greatsword, especially Serenity, is insane. So if you're not grinding the PvP check for Serenity, ooh, you might want to think about it again, bro. Oh man, it's like a cheat code, dude. Now, I don't really want to grind for it on my alt accounts, but I have it on my main account. I just don't know if I want to get back to that PvP track grind. Holy moly, I know a lot of y'all are experiencing that right now. Now, here we are approaching a group of mobs, and what I usually like to do is get the rain of arrows in, and then I'll go immediately to the greatsword. And that way we can do some good stamina damage and overall damage. But it's also good to have that ranged weapon in case the bird flies over there and you don't want to go over there and aggro the enemies, because all you need to do is kill this guy and that bird and you can get through the door. You don't need any other mobs here. So basically you just range shoot them from across the pool, and then you kill them and then run up. Now, as we go into the maze here, I like to switch my stats to con, basically all my magnify to con, and that way when you go up and approach the spiders, I usually like to off tank them for everybody. With Serenity, you'll get aggro really easily. Now, when you get to the second boss, please don't forget to switch your attributes back to normal. Oh my god. Bebop wouldn't go into the second boss fight with 298 con on accident. Whatever. Oh, yeah.
Did I do that?
And yes, I did that. So, all right, here we are, hitting little baby damage on the second boss here. As you can see, Serenity will help make up for the DPS loss, still hitting 7 to 9K or whatnot. But, I mean, you know, we're out here, bruh. I mean, it happens, bruh. This boss moves a lot. And so when he moves, you can replace and move with Relentless Rush, which will help you get in the right position you need without having to run over there. It's a really good way to, you know, maneuver yourself. So that's one thing I love about the greatsword also. Now, when you see these eyes, please, this doesn't have anything to do with the video, but get behind the pillar, please. Holy moly, you should not die to that. Happens every now and then, I get it, but like, no, it should not be a consistent thing, people. All right, let's get to the last boss. All right, now the tail whip's about to come in, and as you can see, I will use Calamity here also to block all the hits. Don't have to run away or do nothing fancy, and then I just go right back to melee. That's what I love about having Calamity. Now, if you're missing Ren, then you need to go skyward and help the group out, okay? Also, that first overhead slash will hit the flower on the back of the boss, so keep that in mind. If you really want to try to hit the flower more with the greatsword, just do the first attack over and over and over, and you will hit it. And then anytime the boss dashes, you can just pull out the bow, do some dot damage, and then get back to melee when she returns. Now, the eggs get absolutely melted by the greatsword, so anytime the egg spawns, that's what I'm constantly looking for. That's when you'll go to them. And anytime the flowers spawn here, you want everybody to back up to the edges of the map, take out the flowers as fast as they can, and then close the flower on the back of the boss. And then that way you don't have to worry about all the poison and the needles and spines everywhere. All right, here's some damage on the eggs. 20k was the first hit, 23k was the last hit, 11k in the middle. As you can see, greatsword does a lot of damage with this setup. Now, anyways, that concludes the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or any, ideas for future videos that you want me to cover, feel free to ask me in the comments. I do have a really good hatchet build for this dungeon that I uploaded about 4 or 5 days ago, so feel free to check that out on my channel. Also, I stream live every day on Twitch, so feel free to stop by. It's the same name as what it is on my YouTube, and the link is on the front of the YouTube page. I will see you on the next one. Have a good day. Later.